Welcome to another edition of the ISB podcast, continuing coverage of the Copa America, our instant reaction U.S. men's national team edition. I'm your host, Sahil, here with Rahi and here with Roy. And my tone is about to change drastically because what we just witnessed was, of course, the U.S. getting eliminated from the Copa America. Now, I just want to let everyone know that there's a lot of tournaments out there. There's the Euros going on. There's the Copa America going on. So there's a lot of football/soccer being played. But one team that will not be moving forward in this is a team that's ranked in the top 15 in the world, according to the FIFA rankings. And that is the United States of America, coached by this brilliant manager, Greg Berhalter. And they were not able to get the job done tonight because they lost to Uruguay 1-0, boys.
Did you mention they're the host of the tournament?
They're the host
the
of the
home
tournament.
team in every game. The home team. Home field advantage in every single game.
They're the home team in every game, for those not
And
aware.
in one of the easiest groups. Did you mention that part? One of the easiest groups in Copa America?
They are in one of the easiest groups in Copa America. They have Bolivia and Panama, who they usually regularly beat on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, boys. Have at it.
You know, I had a dream last night, Roy. I had a dream, and in that dream, you know what happened? In the 5th minute, Pulisic passed to Balogun, who crossed it back across goal. Gio Reyna touched it in to open the scoring 1-0 in the 6th minute. Then in the 30th minute of the game, you know what happened? Anthony Robinson went down one of his bombing runs, crossed it in. Balogun chested it, brought it down, turned, volleyed top corner 2-0 in the 40th minute. And then just to cap it off, in the 85th minute, Christian himself went on one of those solo runs, simple ball over top, slotted past the goalie, and we win 3-0. You know what happened after that?
This is nonsense.
You know what happened after that, Roy?
Absolute nonsense. What?
I woke up. I put on my U.S. shirt. I turned on the game. And then I remembered. It's all been a dream, Roy. All the potential, all the what we talked about, these players, that they're going to change the way the world views American soccer, Roy. It's just a dream. It's just been a pipe dream the whole time. Yep. It's just a dream.
It's a fantasy, Rocky. It's a fantasy we've all been living. I haven't been. Listen, I've been saying this for years. We're not as good as we make us out to be. We're not as good as people say we are. Gio Reyna is not a revelation. He's not a wonder kid. He's not an incredible number 10. He's not world class. Who?
He was good today. Gio was good today.
Come on. Nobody was good. Nobody was good today. We get excited about players like Gio Reyna, like Brendan Aronson, like Musa, like McKennie. We get excited because we're not used to seeing players play for clubs in Europe. That's at the end of the day what this is all about. It is. It's about the names of the roster. This is the golden generation because Pulisic plays for AC Milan. Wow, Yunus Musa plays for Milan. How exotic! Wow, Europe. We love Europe. This is pathetic. This is a pathetic group of players.
No.
It's about the coach, but it's about the individuals. What did Gio Reyna do well today? He gave a couple fancy passes. What did Balogun do well today? A couple nice little plays. For the most part, the passes were wrong. Look at Haji Wright on that last play at the end of the game where that's on the player. That's not for a coach to teach a player. Be aware of your surroundings. Rule 1 in soccer. Be aware of your surroundings. Know when there's 7 defenders in front of you, and maybe I shouldn't shoot. And know when there's a player to your right who doesn't have a defender on him for 1,000,000 miles. That happened all game. Defensively, offensively, goalkeeper who parries the ball into the forward's feet. Who does that? These are player mistakes led by a mediocre coach. But I don't put this on the coach. I put this on individual mistakes across the board. But it's all of them. It's the coach. It's these players. Everyone deserves equal blame. Not 90% Berhalter.
No.
Simple as that.
This is about a coach at this point who has reached his ceiling. And you saw him. I feel bad for Berhalter. Don't get me wrong. He sat on the sideline at the end of the game, and you could tell he was sitting on the bench, and he felt it all, that it was the end, and that he had reached the end of his rope with this team. Let's go back. Netherlands, World Cup. Some moments couldn't really put a mature performance. Colombia, friendly against a good team, loss. Every time this team has come up against real interesting opposition, I'm not talking about the best in the world. By the way, Uruguay is not one of the best teams in the world, not even the top 10 in the rankings. Uruguay,
you know, they're ranked lower than we are. They are ranked lower than we are.
Yes, I know that. If Uruguay were in the
Euros didn't look
right
like
now,
it.
if they were in the Euros right now, they would be out in the round of 16.
Yep.
That is
I would agree
Uruguay.
with that.
I'm not. This is a good team. Don't get me wrong, but this is not a team that this U.S. should struggle to get a result against. It's a team that we should be able to play with. Now, we play with them a little bit today, but when we're desperate and they're not, it still looked like they were in control of the game. That's what it felt like to me. We played well, but they still felt like the better team today. A lot better.
I think we watched different games, Rocky. I didn't think we played well. I thought the second half was... Again, I'm trying not to cuss here. The second half was terrible.
Yeah.
From start to finish. The second half was a bunch of long balls, a bunch of mistakes, a bunch of wrong passes, a bunch of missed opportunities. How many shots on goal did we have all game? Did we have zero shots on goal in the first half?
And when it's desperate,
maybe one crappy one in the second half?
It didn't look desperate, right? It didn't look like, when you have to score, you're going wave after wave after wave of attack. And I get it. They were a bit tired. They were intense in the first half. But a coach that tells you what to do, a coach that gives you options, a coach that inspires you with a game plan that is designed to create dangerous opportunities, that helps a great deal. Because these players are out there trying to do it themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. Mr. Timothy Weah has a lot of blame to bear for ruining this tournament. But let's fast forward. What would have happened if Uruguay, this game didn't need to be a win? What if we draw? What if we lose, but we still make it out? Do you think this team, the way we've seen them perform, was going to get a result against Brazil or Colombia?
No chance.
No
Didn't
chance.
even think of that. Didn't even think of that because this was the game to win. We had one task.
No chance. No,
we
but there's
failed
no chance.
miserably.
So it wouldn't have mattered. My point is, we know now, we have enough data points. We know now this manager with these players doesn't have it against a team you need to beat. The World Cup, you go to a round of 16, which means in order to advance past the round of 16, you need to beat one of the best 8 teams in the world, in theory. This team cannot. Coached the way they are, they can beat Mexico, they can beat up CONCACAF opponents, but they can't beat anyone decent. And by the way, the U.S. teams of the past have beaten guess who? In case you believe that U.S. soccer hasn't ever done things, U.S. soccer beat Spain in the Confederations Cup. That was a Spanish team that hadn't lost for, 2 years.
Yeah.
That was an incredible Spanish team.
That's arguably the best team of all time in terms of best team of all time, period. Because that was the best of the Barcelona and Real Madrid players who played on the national team. And that was the team that won Euros, World Cup, Euros back-to-back. The only tournament in that span of Euros, World Cup, and the Euros back-to-back that they did not win was that Confederations Cup sandwich in the middle because the U.S. beat them.
So if you don't know, don't think for a second that the U.S. has always been bad and all this. That's not true. If you're new to this,
Rocky, I don't disagree. I don't agree with this.
My point is with those players. With those players, you're able to get results against good teams. The U.S. has beaten Brazil in a Gold Cup. And these are objectively better, more talented players. You have to be able to get more from them. You don't always have to be the more talented team. I'm not saying the U.S. is more skilled than Uruguay. I'm saying the U.S. has the ability to get a result.
I don't know. I don't know if Rocky, you're talking about outliers across the past 20 years. Every dog has its day. Georgia has punched above their weight. Look at Georgia. Look at Switzerland. Look at what all these teams in the Euro are doing. Slovenia, Slovakia. Is Slovenia and Slovakia looking back at this tournament 10, 15 years from now and saying, oh, we once made it out of the group in the Euro?
Yeah.
We are good. No, these are one-offs. These are one-off situations that we have experienced. This US team is not a good team. And just because we won those games in the past does not mean we're suddenly worthy of getting out of a Euro today in 2024.
No, that's not the point I'm making. Is these are more talented players than we've had in the past. And with less talented players, other managers have been able to elevate those players in order to get big results. To play
So
against
those
big
managers
teams,
are better than this manager? I don't think that's the argument either.
My point is those managers were able to do things this manager couldn't do. And this is a results business. So at this point, look, it's not always fair, but life comes down to big moments and small moments. This was a big moment. And in this big moment, they didn't come up with what they needed to do.
Yeah.
And you can be unfair, fair, but the coach has to bear that responsibility. And the federation has to say, look, is this going in the right direction? We did okay in the World Cup. Now, a couple years later, have we seen progress? And the simple answer is no. And if you believe you've seen anything to suggest that it's going to trend in a different direction, you're dreaming like I was dreaming. That's what you're doing.
So this is what I wanted, where I wanted to go from here. So where do we go from here? Because I would agree. We went to the CONCACAF Nations League final last summer, and I'd say that was the pinnacle of what we saw, hammering Mexico 3-0, beating Canada pretty handily. Fair, but so beating Mexico 3-0, hammering Canada 2-0, a Canadian team that has got through, by the way, to the next round of Copa America. And then after that, it's been a very fast decline down. I would say very quickly. And there has been a trend after that. There was the rehiring of Greg Berhalter. So I'm not saying that this is the cause, but it hasn't helped the situation. And I think that that's a definite thing that has to happen. I think he needs to go. Are you guys not in agreement at this point?
Listen, there's one thing we can control. As much as I talk about the players, what I don't like is people focusing 100% on the coaching and thinking that a coaching change will solve our problems. It's not just about a coaching change. This is systemic. This is about the players we're producing. This is about the talent we're producing first and foremost. Swapping the coach isn't going to fix all our problems. But what is the next step? It's getting rid of the thing we can control. We can't control our pipeline right now. We can't swap in. Let's bring in another number 10 instead of Reina. No, we can't do that because we don't have that. We don't have that talent. We have to use the players we have. So what can we control? We can control who heads up our federation. We can control who our head coach is. Those things have to change. Those things have to change.
Right.
Whether they're the number one thing to blame or not, they have to change. But we have to have these players look at themselves in the mirror.
So let's start there. Coaching needs to change. If Greg Berhalter is not sacked, I will probably not be a supporter of the U.S. men's national team.
I don't think he'll be sacked, Sahil. I don't think he will.
If he doesn't, I can guarantee you a lot of fans out there are not going to be fans of the team until that happens. Two, let's talk about the players a little bit in terms of what's there. So our options are these players, and then we're going to see the second squad in the Olympics, right, coming up. So
they're terrible.
With that pool, the question is going to become, is there anyone there that is even of any worth? And if that's not the case, then we really need to go back to the drawing board, because I don't.
It's not a matter of calling the wrong players. We called the right players for this.
I'm not saying calling the wrong players, but what I'm saying is that this is obviously not worked. Now, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I do think Balogun showed this tournament that, this is the best tournament he's ever played for us. So I think he is a top class player and has the potential. Pulisic, fine. Reina, when he feels like it, fine. And Serginho Dest is a top level player. Beyond those players, no one else on the team, and I mean no one else on the team, in my opinion, is of a top caliber. But you still have to take what you have and make each of them the best they possibly can. We watched a game earlier today, Slovenia, right? You think player by player, the Slovenian players are better than the U.S. men's national team players? They're more technical, yes, but they're not better players per se. But they had a system, they had coaching, and in those individual moments, those players know what to do. And these players have no clue, And I don't know if it's on the personalities or what the issue is, but if they can't figure it out themselves, someone needs to come in and tell them what to do.
Let me say this, that this is not that I'm anti-Berhalter, right? I agree that he needs to be fired, but I do have some empathy for him. I do think he was put in a very difficult position being rehired. It's basically like you've taken his legs out from under him and said, go coach the team again. I think he didn't have the respect of the players anymore. It's a very difficult place to be. And I do appreciate what he did for the team in some ways, bring up the younger players. All I'm saying, and this is why I agree with you that he needs to be fired, is because he's reached his limit. This team with him has reached the ceiling. And for that reason, he needs to be changed. And sometimes you just need fresh energy. You need a new perspective. The women's team is a great example. After the World Cup, Vlatko looked like he had no ideas. He resigned. They brought in a new coach, a respected coach, a feared coach, and she's going to change things. She already has started. I don't think this is about not having the players. We have enough good players. You just named 4 players roughly. I would add Anthony Robinson in that mix, who are good players. To be a good team, to compete, you don't need many more than that, honestly. A lot of teams do a lot more with a lot less, is all I'm saying. We have enough good players. We need to tell them how to play the game so that they can develop attacking ideas. This team does not create chances, Roy.
Yeah, the one thing I would, and let's finish with this, Roy, is do you think that these players are listening? Like, or do you think if another coach comes in, these players will be amenable to it? Because one of the issues we talked about is the lack of discipline with this team and all that kind of stuff. So are they going to respond to someone new?
I think they'll be fine. I don't think these players are unique in that sense that they're so undisciplined that they can't be coached. These don't seem like uncoachable players. These players all have a club team. They play under tough coaches. Some of them play under world-class coaches. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. Will it start little issues here and there, some rough patches? Sure. But I think at the end of the day, one thing we don't have that most of these teams who punch above their weight do, like Morocco in the World Cup, like Croatia, like Switzerland, like Austria, they have world-class players. They have at least a couple world-class players who are top players for good teams in Europe. We don't have that. We don't have that. One could argue, fine. One could argue.
Is a world-class player,
Christian,
man.
Who's a world-class player?
Christian's
not a World Cup player. I'm sorry. He had one good half season over the past 5 years.
Year for a good club.
He had one good half season over the past 5 years.
No.
He had a little bit of a sliver of a good season with Chelsea in the Champions League when he had that heroic goal against Real Madrid. Over the past 5 years, would you say Pulisic has been world-class? 40% of the time?
When he's on the field? Yeah. He's been
The
injured
answer's
a lot.
no, Rocky. The answer's no, he hasn't been world-class over the past 5 years. Let's be real.
I think we're asking irrelevant questions.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm kind of getting at is what has to happen now is these are the players we have, excluding getting some talent that's coming up the pipeline, which should always be happening. But given what you have, and this is the mark of a good manager. It's a good mark of a good manager at work and in the corporate world and whatever kind of job is you take whatever talent you have and you have to get the best out of them, right? And that's all you can do. That's what the Slovenia coach did today. Like, frankly, like that's all you can do. So
Slovenia lost.
Coach has been doing.
Slovenia lost, and they lost in the round of 16.
Slovenia did not lose. It was a 0-0 draw, by the way.
No,
they did not lose, and they didn't lose the whole tournament. Slovenia did not lose the whole tournament.
Okay, here's my final point. My final point is we're talking about Band-Aids. We're talking about replacing the coach. We're talking about switching up the tactics. At the end of the day, there's a systemic problem in this country. The systemic problem is if you're a talented 9-year-old, and I know many of them, I coach soccer. You're a talented 9-year-old. You don't know where to go. You don't know what your path is. This path is $3,000 a year. This path is $4,000 a year. There's no scouting work. There's no way for that talented 7, 8, 9-year-old to go to the right place unless he has connections, unless he has money, unless he has parents that know the system or has a mentor that knows the system. We have a systemic problem in this country where players, the right players, are not going through the pipeline. The right players are getting dropped off when they're 13, 14 years old. That's the problem in this country that neither of you are mentioning. You're mentioning the coach. You're mentioning at the very top level. Switching the coach is going to solve all our problems. It's not.
Exactly why. That explains why Roy is currently filming from the back of his car. He might be sleeping in there right now. So that's what happened. He was 9 years old.
Because my wife is sick of me screaming at home. I'm screaming at home during every game. She's sick of me. She kicked me out.
So look, Roy, I agree with you, and we'll finish here because I know this has been long, and I'm sure viewers out there would love to hear your comments as well, like in the about this match and what's wrong with the U.S. I agree with you. There's systemic issues, but going into tournaments, the goal is not to sit there and be like, okay, well, there's systemic issues we have to solve before, like in the next 2 years before we go to the tournament. I get that, but like you have to deal with the chips that you have on the table, and we need to get someone who can do the best with these chips or bring in a few chips that are not here, and that's all you can do. That's all you can do.
And hope and pray we punch above our weight again.
Nah, but you're
and then do it again in 4 years.
I don't disagree with you, Roy. Those are problems that we have to solve. But what you're ignoring is the fact that this is a failure, that this team is capable of more. This particular group of players is capable of getting to the semifinals, maybe even the final of a Copa America. I know I said it, but this group of players is capable, not because they're better than other teams in this tournament, because with a good coach can take a base that's decent and make them pretty darn good. If I thought you were going to say the one thing we're missing, and I was ready to be like, I agree with you. I was so excited, but then you went to some weird thing about 9-year-olds, which is a bit of bizarre in its own way. So I thought you were going to say the one thing we're missing is an identity. And that's what we're missing.
Too.
Yeah. We're missing some 9-year-olds. Don't disagree with that, but Roy will find them. But we're missing an identity. That's the problem. What were we doing today, right? Like we're passing it around a little bit. We create some crosses, but there's no identity. There's no clear plan on what to play. Watch 100%. The Slovenias of the world. Watch the Slovakias of the world. The minute the center forward gets the ball, plays it out wide, and then they're on the counter and they're going. Yeah. We don't have an idea. That's coaching.
They also have world-class players, Rahi.
They do not have more world-class players than we have.
Yes,
that's just not true.
I wouldn't say Slovakia has necessarily more world-class players.
Oh, Slovakia. Anyhow, I thought you were talking about Uruguay. Sorry, not Slovakia. Uruguay, yes.
So anyhow, the Copa America will still be continuing without the U.S. We will continue to dissect this. This is just the beginning of the monumental failure of the U.S. men's national team. Everyone can sleep on it and think about what they want to say in the comments. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. The U.S. women will be kicking off the Olympics pretty soon. So I think that everyone, all U.S. fans, I think you can turn your attention over there for that. But I guess I'll say it today. Go USA. Go USA, kind of, maybe.
Feel right. Go where?
Go home. A new day. The way to look
Go
at
home,
this
USA.
The way to look at this is this was a decision day, and we failed, which means now we get to start all over again. And I'm a little excited.
Oh, I do have one thing to end with. I'll end with this. We have qualified for the next World Cup, boys.